think, it's very common that partners in general want to make sure that everybody's going to be safe. That's their number one concern. When you just let the body do what it's going to do, you very rarely have major complications because your body was made to have a baby this way. Your baby was made to be born this way, and it's all made to work. And honestly, if you just leave the woman alone, but provide her emotional support, education around it, and make sure that everybody's safe the minutes after everyone's born, everything is just fine.
Welcome back to the very first guest episode of season 7 of the Becoming You podcast. So many things have changed. And if you haven't already listened to my solo episode, go back because I like to call it I'm in a midlife crisis, but it's just really a midlife evolution. But I'm sitting here, first podcast I recorded in my bedroom, which has not happened since I actually started the Becoming You podcast many years ago. And today's a really, really special episode. And I realized as I touched up my mascara right before I jumped on, I was like, I'm probably going to cry today. So this might have been a mistake, but I am so excited to welcome my guest today, who is not just someone that I massively admire, someone you're going to learn so much from, but is also someone that has been really integral in my experience of being a mother. So I'm going to introduce Melissa Dean, and then we're going to dive in. We're going to talk a little bit about my birth story, I should say my second birth story. But what you're going to walk away with today is if you are thinking about having kids, what to do before. If you are already pregnant, what to do right now to ensure really the safest experience, the healthiest experience for you and your baby. And if you are like me and you're having kids experiences in the rearview mirror, you're going to learn how to help restore your body if you just don't feel quite the same. So today's guest, Melissa Dean, is a midwife. She is the founder of Casa Natal Birth and Wellness Center, which, by the way, is the best birth center in the Bay Area, voted by Bay Area parents. And it's located in Los Gatos. And she's a functional and integrative medicine practitioner who really combines this experience for women's health with a midwifery practice. So, Melissa, before I introduce you, I have to give all the accolades because she is not the best kept secret. She was when I met her, but she has been featured in The Bump, in Today's Parent, in podcasts, every pretty much major parenting podcast out there. And I wanted to bring her on because what she is going to share with you is so important. And it makes me excited to bring it to you. It also makes me really sad and frustrated that more women don't have this information when they need it. So Melissa, welcome.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. It's just always such a privilege to spend time with you. I value you so much, and it's just really an honor to be part of your podcast. So thank you so much.
You're so welcome. I'm already getting choked up. So I want to take you back before we dive in. And listen, there's going to be so many facts and stats that are going to make you mad or wake you up to do things, again, whether you are pre-baby, during pregnancy, or after. But I met Melissa, well, it was 5.5 years ago. I was about 8 months pregnant. And that, by the way, is not the ideal time to select your midwife, right? But I had a really challenging first birth experience. And I know myself much better now, but at the time I really wanted to have a very holistic experience. I wanted to do a home birth. My husband was not into that. So we had our first baby, Luca, at Stanford. And it was an experience I felt like it was a fight the entire time. And if you have listened to more than 10 seconds of this podcast, you know I am someone that is pretty strong-willed. I'm opinionated and I'm an advocate for myself and others. And even in that experience, I really felt like I was trying to be my own advocate and I didn't have a partner in that. And it was not an experience I wish to go through again. I did get a beautiful, healthy baby out of it, but it was a really traumatic experience. And I was having so much anxiety in my second pregnancy, knowing that I could end up with that same outcome, which, we can dive into it, but was basically intervention without medical consent. And I told my husband, I said, I am having so much anxiety about going back to the hospital that this is not good for my baby. It's not good for the pregnancy. And so he agreed that, my husband is not controlling, by the way. We are very much a partnership, but I said, let me do some research. Let me talk to some midwives. And if we can find someone you're comfortable with, would you consider it? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. So Melissa, you were the only person I ever interviewed, by the way. I think I found you on Yelp, probably.
Yay.
Yelp or Blossom Birth, I'm not sure. But we came in 8 months and this is what I love about you. And I'll ask you now, sort of some little advice when you're talking to parents is I come in, here I am, Enneagram 7, Aquarius, like very into my intuition and wanting to be heard and also a little bossy. And my husband is Enneagram 3, very much the Virgo and the engineer. And you totally understood how to talk to him in a language he could understand.
Well, I think, it's very common that partners in general want to make sure that everybody's going to be safe. That's their number one concern. So that is always the first thing. Like, the first thing, is everybody going to be safe? And then how much is it going to cost? That's the partner's job, basically. So they ask those types of questions. But I've been doing this long enough and I truly understand why they feel the way they do. They love you, they love their partner more than anything. So they want to make sure that safety is priority. So we address that first off. Like, let's talk about what are you afraid of? Let's talk about it and address it head on. And that usually is what they want to hear. And the bottom line is that midwifery is very safe. And
that's what I was astounded by.
Sorry?
I was astounded by, the stats. And I think if I recall correctly, it was something like, I'm sure you know this, that as long as you're not a high risk birth, which outside of the fact I was a geriatric pregnancy, being over 39 when Valentina was born. But if you're not a high risk birth, the outcomes for a home birth are actually better than a hospital birth.
Yes, because, we only care for healthy, low-risk women, and being geriatric does not make you high risk in any sense of the word. Obviously, you could potentially have hypertension, or you potentially could have other things just because you're a little older. But obviously, when you start at the beginning of your pregnancy, we talk through all those things. But we have healthy, low-risk clients, and when you just let the body do what it's going to do, you very rarely have major complications because your body was made to have a baby this way. Your baby was made to be born this way, and it's all made to work. And honestly, if you just leave the woman alone, but provide her emotional support, education around it, and make sure that everybody's safe the minutes after everyone's born, everything is just fine. It's all the interventions that are done, the inductions, the Pitocin, the, medications that they use, the ridiculous C-section rate. That's when you have complications.
Ugh. I will just say, and I'm not going to go into it because I will cry. My birth experience was, I would say it was perfect. It was so intentional. Obviously, being at home was incredible.
Yes.
My recovery was wild. I think we had Valentina. This is where I did get my will. I was like, I really want to have her during the day when there's beautiful natural light. Most babies are born in the middle of the night, because I had spent a lot of money to hire a birth photographer. It was almost as much money as my wedding photographer. And she was born at, after 2 p.m, gorgeous light. But I think the entire thing from the time that I said, okay, I think we're there, was like 2 hours.
Yeah,
2 hours.
It was not a long amount of time. Again, it was your second baby, and which makes things a little bit easier. But yeah, it was a perfect birth.
It was a perfect birth.
You orchestrated it perfectly, and your body and your baby cooperated.
It did. No tearing. My recovery was incredible. And like, my son was literally, I had Valentina while Luca was taking a nap at my in-laws. And then afterwards, like that night, my husband slept on the couch because I was with Valentina, and my son woke up in the middle of the night, and I was able to go tend to him and then come back to bed. It just was such a different experience. And I will always be so grateful. I can't imagine some of my friends that did not have anything like that, and what I would feel like if I hadn't. And so I'm so grateful to you.
Well, I am very blessed to have been able to be there and be able to care for you and your family, because it was amazing.
It was amazing. So let's pretend that I had listened to my intuition about a year earlier, and was thinking about getting pregnant, and which I did. And so I did try to wait so that I was done breastfeeding and everything. But when you have someone that comes to you and they're like, hey, I'm thinking about getting pregnant, what are the first things someone could do preventatively or, in advance to ensure that they're going to have the healthiest pregnancy possible?
Yeah, I think, mostly it's making sure that you're well nourished. Obviously, you want to be avoiding toxin exposure in your everyday life. We are subjected to so many toxins, the BPAs, the phthalates, the parabens, just all of it, pesticides, nonstick pans, they're terrible. All of those things add little bits of toxins to your life on a daily basis. We're inundated. So first and foremost, choosing beauty products and foods and things that are going to reduce our toxin load. That's key right there. Second, though, is making sure you're nourishing yourself properly, because your body is made to rid itself of toxins also. And if you're supporting all of those systems, it helps to detox your body naturally. Obviously, we're inundating it more than it should be. So we're going to have more than what is our body is used to. But you want to be able to support that by eating all of the right foods and being well nourished. And then making sure that your vitamin levels are up, and making sure that you are, taking good supplements and prenatal vitamins. The prenatal vitamins that are on the market today, most of them are little more than a basic multivitamin that doesn't really give you enough of what you really need during pregnancy. So taking things that are higher in folate than what you would typically would have, higher in iodine, higher in selenium, higher in different things that support your thyroid and your hormones of your, that control your body during pregnancy.
And something I want to ask before we dive in, because not everyone knows what like a midwife's background is, what a schooling is, and you're obviously a midwife, but you've also gone on to get all your functional. So can you talk a little bit about the areas that you're an expert, the things that you test for, like you know far more about nutrition, about hormones than the average doctor, and really even the difference between a midwife and, let's say, an OBGYN, because it's not what people. I think it's as significant as people think, with the exception of if you need a C-section.
Yeah. OBs are primarily surgeons. They get into obstetrics because they like the science of different, not because they like attending births necessarily. They like performing surgery, and it's a well-paid profession. So doctors are trained as surgeons. They spend all of their time practicing their craft, practicing surgery, because obviously if they're going to give you a C-section, you want them to be good at it. But they spend no time at all in supporting women through labor, and they don't really understand what the body goes through in labor. The nurses handle all of that. They don't spend any time learning anything about that. The difference, midwives spend all of our time supporting women in labor. As I'm a licensed midwife in California, which means that I'm licensed by the California Medical Board, and we spend all of our time as apprentices in training, attending women in labor with a preceptor. So for all the years I was in school, I went to births with the preceptor. I went to clinic with a preceptor. I sat alongside another midwife learning as I went. I also brought in 10 years of experience as a birth doula before I became a midwife. So I had a lot of experience supporting women in birth throughout that time. But yeah, so we spend all of our time with women in labor, all of our time, feeling your baby in your belly. We know if your baby's head up or head down. We know if, what position your baby's in. We want to make sure it's coming down through your pelvis in the proper way, so your birth is quick and easy for you and for your baby. A lot of women in the hospital have C-sections because their baby is malpresented. It's coming down the pelvis, facing the wrong direction, or sucking its thumb, or doing something that makes it delay the progress of labor. And the doctor says, oh, well, it looks like your baby's too big, we're going to give you a C-section. When really it's just malpresented.
Well, and let's talk about that for a moment, because even before, like what you need to do before, what you need to do during, I think that if, I'm a big fan of people having information and not being like a pro something or anti something. But when you have the information, and when I looked at that information, I went to my Enneagram 5 cave. Melissa, by the way, is an Enneagram 7, which we'll talk about in a moment. She likes to have fun. But when I went into my Enneagram 5 cave and I started looking at it, I was like, okay, why is Stanford, for example, where I had my first birth, their C-section rate is so high, right? And like you were saying, doctors, like surgery is a known entity or quantity or thing if you can schedule it in, right? And so you could just look at the stats and not even say like, oh, C-sections are done because doctors make more money. Like, that is true. But you can look at, when are C-sections done? Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, when people don't want to like be at the hospital for 2 days. And ask yourself, like, do you want to be in a situation potentially where that will happen? Because I was headed there as someone who wanted a completely natural birth, who wanted no drugs. Like, I was headed to a C-section because of medical interventions without consent. Had I not had a great doula there who was able to advocate. Well, this is again before I met Melissa. So looking at that information and realizing the outcomes for a home birth and or a birth center, because you didn't have your birth centers at the time, right? A birth center, which is going to have even more than a home birth and, is incredibly well stocked. And I wish that I had the tub that you have at your birth center instead of the blow up tub I had.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, we have a very, very, very low induction rate. I mean, we are licensed to care for women from 37 to 42 weeks. So every now and then somebody goes beyond the 42 weeks, or medically they present with hypertension or some medical reason that, induction is necessary. But in that case that it's actually a medical necessity. So yeah, very few of our clients get induced. The national average for cesareans is about 35%. Ours is about 6%. So very few clients end up with C-sections.
That's amazing. So back to before pregnancy. So obviously having labs done to see what your levels are, because we can't just assume that, everybody that is walking in is going to be ready to go to the massive physical task of
growing a human. Yeah, growing a human.
Exactly, growing a human.
Birth. Yeah.
I remember hearing this, and actually I heard this from someone I knew that's a retired midwife when I was right after I'd had Luca, and she said something about breastfeeding. She's like, because I breastfed for almost 2 years, and she said that you should wait 6 to 12 months after breastfeeding, if possible, to get pregnant again, because it takes that long for your body's nutrients to kind of like stock up, to level up.
Yeah.
And obviously that's not even just if you have had a baby. Like some people have been nutrient deficient for years based on food source detoxification, all of those things, right?
Well, and college, just think about it. What you ate in college and then sleep deprivation and things like that. So that's part of what your, genetic makeup is because you've been nourishing your body in a certain way for a certain period of time. So, I mean, I was doing just some stats on, basic pregnancy to support the midwives in my practice, and realized that the CDC, and I don't even know that, I think these numbers are higher, but the CDC says that 20% of American women go into pregnancy anemic. Anemia means that you are more prone to bleed after your baby's born. So you're more at risk for hemorrhage. Not only that, but you feel more fatigued and just exhausted and run down, but it also has effects on your growing newborn if you don't have enough red blood cells in your system. 50% of American women are clinically deficient in vitamin D. And for some populations, especially those with darker skin, because you don't absorb the vitamin D quite as well from the sun, it's up to 98%. And I see that for sure in my practice because we test everybody's vitamin D in pregnancy. I would say easily 90% of our clients, unless they're supplementing, they are clinically deficient. That's not even low. That's way, way, way low in vitamin D. 50% are deficient in magnesium. Magnesium is like the mom mineral. It helps with insomnia. It helps with nerve function. It helps your body to relax, stabilizes your blood sugar. Super important. 20% of women are low in folate. Folate helps protect your baby from birth defects. There's a gene mutation called MTHFR, which I know you know about.
I have it.
And so do I, but not everybody knows about it. And when you have an OB as your primary care physician, they have you take folic acid. Folic acid does not get absorbed by the 25% of the American population that have the MTHFR gene.
And is recognized by your body as a toxin.
Exactly. And it builds up and causes more problems with the other systems in your body. Yes. And 25%.
Going back to the magnesium, it also helps you go to the bathroom better, which if you're pregnant is typically, more of the challenge.
Yes.
So really, really quickly on this, I mean, it's just, again, it's so wild because, again, I didn't know you. And I want to just share a fact because I think that people are like, yes, I know I need to eat healthier. I need to, have my vitamins while I'm pregnant. But again, this is not just while you're pregnant, it's before. And this is also for husbands as far as quality of sperm, by the way. Again, that midwife told me, she goes, it's not just how clean the oven is going in, it's also the batter. And I was like, oh, I can never unhear that again. So, and now you can't, all of you that are listening. But the other thing I was going to say, and this is something I didn't realize, and again, why I wish I would have met you years ago, like 9.5 to be exact, is Valentina struggles with gut issues. Luca's gut is amazing. And that is because the state of my gut when I got pregnant with him versus when I got pregnant with her. So even though I was already seeing a naturopath and I was, as now, gluten-free, dairy-free, eating all organic, mostly whole foods, like careful on my supplementation, taking the methylfolate. Like I am more neurotic when it comes to health and probably at least 95% of the people out there, Melissa knows, like, I mean, all the things, alkaline water, clean beauty products, like all of it. I had some gut issues. And because I had those when I had Valentina, she picked those up for me. And I mean, the girl's 5 years old and she's having gut work done. So please, again, if you haven't had kids and you're listening to this, think about this. And if you're in the Bay Area, go see Melissa at Casa Dental. If you're somewhere else, well, we'll talk about if there's somewhere else how they can still learn from you and work with you.
Yep.
So now I think we've talked a little bit about what to do before. And now, again, let's kind of go over into the while pregnant. So obviously you're talking about testing for nutrients. What are the other things that are so important outside of the eat healthy and ensure that you're getting the right vitamins?
Yeah, I think, well, and just a lot of women don't realize, that maternal nutrition, that what you eat in pregnancy has an effect on your baby's DNA. It actually affects your baby's DNA. So the way you nourish yourself in pregnancy affects your baby's overall health for the rest of its life and the lives of its children. So especially girl babies. So you're affecting your whole generation following you. So it's super.
Let me just stop you on that one again, because this blew my mind when I heard this. So when I was incubating Valentina, everything I was eating that was not only forming her cells, her building blocks of her body, was forming her ovaries and her eggs. So if you are pregnant or having a daughter, every decision that you are making of what you subject your body to, put on your skin, put in your mouth, it is building the building blocks of your grandchildren, which is wild. But it also, I mean, it can be overwhelming, but it's also a huge privilege to be able to make those choices. And let's be real, like even those of us that had moms that were probably healthy, there's no way that our grandmas were probably smoking cigarettes were thinking about these things, right? The other thing that I wanted to ask about, I wanted to say that clicked for me, and I was pregnant with Luca when I realized this. I was reading a book about healthy pregnancies. I think it was Dave Asprey's wife's book, who's a pediatrician. And I was reading this about food, and that's where I learned about, the eggs. But what I realized in that moment, I said, it's also the emotions that we feel while pregnant. If you think about this, when you are stressed and you feel cortisol, you are subjecting your baby to cortisol. I was like, oh my gosh, so stress pregnancies are going to actually chemically addict a child to cortisol, which you could just Google what that does from a neurological standpoint, from a behavioral standpoint, but there are links to all kinds of behavior disorders.
Yeah.
So the point is make your pregnancy as stress-free as possible. And so if you are feeling like you're not aligned with your doctor, your hospital, like your environment, it is upon you to make a different decision.
Yes. I mean, I know you've heard of epigenetics, but that's basically, there's a whole new study at Yale, Harvard, all these big schools on basically devoted to the nutrition of, your mother and father and lifestyle choices, toxin exposure, and basically how it influences gene expression for your offspring. And so, what you eat today and the stress you're exposed to, the toxins you're exposed to, definitely impacts your baby and your future.
I heard this when I was pregnant with Luca too, about the epigenetics. And I remember it was a scientist I was listening to, and he was talking about certain greens and yoga. They had done a study. And the idea with the epigenetics, if those of you listening aren't familiar with it, is like you have certain genes that might, let's say you've got diabetes in your family, but that gene may not be expressed, meaning it's not turned on, but it's still there. And for example, eating, leafy greens, certain types of greens can help it stay turned off.
Yes.
In the same way, but also the study was about yoga, and they found that like yoga or mindfulness meditation had the same power of that turning off the negative genes or helping turn on the positive genes as eating leafy greens. So mind, body, soul connection.
Absolutely. Yeah. 100%. Yes. Yes. So I mean, in our practice, we are running all the basic labs that your OB would run. We offer, genetic testing, all those kinds of things, but we are also adding on extra functional labs. Obviously, we talk to each of our clients about this, as long as their insurance pays for it, those kinds of things. But we're adding extra labs so that we can have an overall look at your system from the very beginning of your pregnancy, so that we can help you change your diet, change your lifestyle, and improve your overall health throughout your pregnancy. Because we want, your thyroid. A lot of doctors don't check thyroid in pregnancy, or they check just your TSH. And your TSH can be completely within the normal range, which is still not even optimal, but your T4, T3 can be off. You can have thyroid antibodies, which is, Hashimoto's. Hashimoto's increases your risk of postpartum depression by a significant number. So again, we want to know all of these things about our clients from the very beginning so that we can help support them throughout their pregnancy and then in the months and years afterwards, because we want our clients to be able to avoid postpartum depression and depletion and things like that as well.
Let's talk about postpartum depletion, because I had never heard of that. Or I don't think I was really familiar with it until you and I started chatting, even actually recently, because I had Valentine in 2019. I think you and I chatted once or twice in 2020, but I didn't see you again until 2022.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there was a little thing going on called a pandemic.
Yeah, there's a little thing that like everyone was kind of at home. But postpartum depletion, because one of the biggest things I hear from women, and I'll say from my personal experience, like I had Luca, and even though I didn't love the birth experience, I felt pretty good after. Like within a year, I felt good again.
Yeah.
And with Valentina, I think being 39, going through a global pandemic with a baby, there was I just didn't feel good. It wasn't just I couldn't lose the weight, I was tired, like all of these things, and I had no idea. Even though I read the 4th trimester books and all the things and took 3 months off, like I did all of the stuff that I was supposed to do. Yeah, I did all the things. But physically, like when I ran my labs, like I was so depleted in every way.
Yeah.
So can you define what is postpartum depletion? Because I think that women listening to this who have children, whether they're babies, toddlers, or school age, are going to go, oh my gosh, this is what I have been suffering with. They didn't have the term for it, and they don't know who to go to get help for it.
Yes, exactly. So moms who are suffering from postpartum depletion usually first and foremost, they're just not feeling like themselves. They're like, I had these kids and now I feel like they've wrecked me. I don't feel the same. My body is not bouncing back. My mind is not bouncing back. I feel exhausted, overwhelmed, high anxiety, depression. I can't lose the baby weight. Just so many different things. Low libido. Don't want anybody touching you because you're so touched out. So many different things. But a lot of it is, it gets more serious when it starts affecting anxiety and depression, hypervigilance, things that are affecting your mind that make you really feel like you're not yourself. And a lot of my clients don't start to feel, they may start to feel it, but they don't really reach out for support until they've maybe 5 years in, because they think, I'll bounce back. Maybe I just need a little more sleep. Maybe I just need a little more help. And it's not, yes, those things will help you, but it's repleting the nutrients in your body and supporting your mind through healthy nutrition and cleaning up your gut sometimes. That is going to help you really, really get back to feeling vital and, like you did before you had kids. So yeah, we want to get to the root cause of why you're feeling the way you are. So we're going to test, do functional labs, not just basic, cholesterol, those kinds of things. We're going to do some functional labs to find out where you're lacking in nutrients, a whole broad spectrum of all the, minerals, vitamins, amino acids, all the different things that are going to be, affect how you feel physically and how your brain works. And then we're going to help you replete those things. Do some gut testing to make sure that, you could be eating all the right things, but if you're not absorbing them because you have gut issues.
I'm raising my hand here because that was the thing. I was eating all the right things, but I wasn't absorbing.
Yes, you've always had an amazing diet, except for that little blip in there where you were a vegan. But otherwise,
yes, I know. I'm back to eating the meats.
But yes, you've always been so, mindful about what you put into your body. But yes, if you're not absorbing it properly because you have gut issues, then it's just all flushing through and it's not going to get to your brain and get to your overall well-being. So yeah, we want to test all of those things. And then, I have a dietitian on staff. So we work through, like, I give you sample diets and all kinds of things myself. But if you really want someone who's going to be holding your hand and helping you prepare foods and thinking exactly what to eat day by day, we give you a whole list of recipes, whole list of foods to eat. But if you want more help, we have a dietitian on staff that can help you do that alongside me doing the testing and making sure that you really giving you great support so that you are starting to feel back to yourself again. Maybe giving you some supplements, but my goal is not to have you take a giant Ziploc bag full of supplements for the rest of your life. I want to replete those nutrients, show you which foods to eat to help replete those nutrients as well. And then once they get back up to where they need to be, you can taper off the supplements and just eat a healthy diet. Nobody wants to have to take a gallon Ziploc bag full of supplements everywhere they go for the rest of their life.
Well, and I was going to say the other thing. So obviously we've been talking about the things that you need to add on based upon what you can be missing. But as you said, you also might have things that you need to get rid of. Because I know I've dealt with detoxing from mold, detoxing from heavy metals, gut parasites. Like you may have some extra passengers that are not welcome that are jacking things up.
Yeah, exactly. So as in addition to the functional labs or testing for nutrient depletion, we're also testing for toxins. Because again, you can be doing all the right things, but if you have a black mold exposure and your body's just overwhelmed with dealing with that toxin, because that can be really, really damaging to your overall, psyche, brain, lungs, everything, you're going to feel run down and sick as long as you have that exposure. So identifying those things and helping to, correct them. Obviously, we don't do any of these things when people are pregnant. I can have clients come into my practice and I can identify for sure they are going to need support, but it's not anything I want anybody to do when they're pregnant. Not even really in the early months of breastfeeding. I want them to be at least 6 months out after having their baby, 6 months into breastfeeding, before we can start changing up their diet, because being well nourished is key. Obviously, we've been talking about this, being well nourished during pregnancy and in breastfeeding. And then, you don't want to start eliminating foods and things until your baby is self-sufficient and having solid foods.
So obviously, if you're in the Bay and you're thinking about having a baby, go visit Melissa, or you're pregnant. But let's talk about for women that are like, oh my gosh, I just feel like you described everything that I've been going through and I don't feel crazy. And again, the not feeling crazy, I think, is the biggest point, because I had gone to many great doctors. Like, again, before I started looking into functional, which is the cornerstone of everything that you do. And I was going to, I would say, good MDs, even like private practice, concierge, that you're paying a lot of money, even to a naturopath. And I can remember not feeling like I was always taken seriously, or asking for things. Like one of the times I said, I think there's something wrong with my thyroid. And they did a test, and then I showed it to my aunt who had been on a thyroid journey first. She's like, they didn't test like half the stuff they should have. And so I think that's the biggest thing, is just feeling like you have an advocate. And that's what, Melissa, I appreciate so much about you, is I felt like I was like, this is what I want. This is my goal. And you were able to work with that and make me feel heard.
Yeah. Well, I mean, all midwives operate from the, midwifery model of care is all about education. We want you to feel educated, informed, and supported. So I come to everything with education. I want my clients to really have a deep understanding of why they feel the way they do. And we're going to be on this journey together. It's not just, you go to a typical doctor, they kind of like, well, here's your prescription. They rip off the pad and here, go take this and, take 2 pills and call me in the morning kind of thing. It's not really a journey of support where, my clients are really important to me. And even though, you can live down the street, you can live in a different state. I'm checking in with my clients regularly, making sure that they are, being well supported, making sure that they understand why we're doing these things, and having enough support. That's why I have the dietitian. If, you need somebody who can check in with you multiple times a week on what you're eating, you need extra support, a health coach, dietitian, somebody like that. And so we have extra staff to do those kinds of things.
So first of all, how can someone get a hold of you? How can they work with you? Because you work with women all over the United States on the postpartum depletion side.
Yes. So I'm at casanatal.com, CASA-NATAL.com. You can book a consult with me on my website. You can find me on Instagram at Casanatal Birth Center. I'm not really a social media person, so I'm not huge.
Because you're too busy helping clients.
I'm too busy helping clients, for sure. Yes.
Except now, so let's talk for a second, because I've known you for 6 years almost, and I'm trying to remember how was it like 2.5 years ago that we were reconnected? Was it through Zoe?
No, I just have been following you ever since I met you, and I've always thought you were amazing, life-changing person. And I mean, you are magnetic, and so when I have clients that sit in my office that are magnetic, I feel very connected. And again, I'm an Enneagram 7 too. So I want to get together and
we see each other's souls.
each other. So yes, I mean, I really enjoyed having you as my client. And I mean, Gino, even though he's an Enneagram 3, he's also just a super great guy. And yeah, I thought,
You got to catch the baby, by the way. That was the coolest thing.
Yes. Well, that's important. I think it's their baby. I want that to happen for them if they want to do that. Yes. So I've just been following you and watching you become, this starting the pitch club, and I wanted to reach out and see if, see what you were doing. So yeah.
I love it. And so
being in your circle.
A year and a half ago, and I remember Melissa's like, I think you said something like, I think I need what you do, and I absolutely am terrified of it. And so, but you joined the inner circle, and that was a year and a half ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved it because so she's an Enneagram, is it 738 or 728? No, 738.
No, I'm a 7-8. What am I? A 7-8-2.
Not 6.
Not a 2. I'm not a 2.
No, that's me. I'm the 7. So 728 is like the free spirit, which means, for those of you who don't.
Oh no, I think I am a 7-8-3.
Yeah, you're 783. Yes, you are. So 783, which means she shows up super fun, like needs her certainty is uncertainty, which is perfect as a midwife because there's a lot of uncertainty.
Yes. Nothing is
like
certain.
me, nothing is certain. Like me,
except
absolutely.
that everybody's going to be okay, and I'm going to be there to help support you.
Well, and that's where you do a lot on your 8, because as the 8, you're like, you show up as certain. You show up as like the person that can be trusted. You show up as the warrior, as the advocate, but for the patient, not against the patient, which is really important. And then the 3 is the achiever. And listen, you got best birth center without even trying to, but I don't think you were fully embracing the 3 side of all of the incredible talents you had. So you joined the inner circle a year and a half ago. And I loved it because Melissa was not, well, I don't want to say you weren't loving it. You loved the community, but you always gave me the best feedback, and it allowed me to improve things. And it was amazing. And then you joined again. And can you share kind of what's happened over the last year of like how you really stepped into recognizing how important, I mean, you've always recognized how important what you do is, but how important it is to do it on a bigger scale, on a bigger stage.
I mean, yes, I love supporting women. And to me, that's just been the most amazing career path. And being an advocate for, I think that's just, you can't do anything more amazing than supporting another woman get the birth that she wants. I mean, you only get to have a couple births in your lifetime, and you don't want to have to go backwards and do it over again some other way. Let's start at the beginning and do them all right. But every now and then we have women who come to us who have traumatic births like you did, or just women who have a lot of trauma in their life. They don't feel safe in a hospital setting with a bunch of strangers touching their body that they don't know. Yeah. And so, we put a lot of extra support on those women and on each of our clients. But, we want to create an amazing, wonderful birth experience. So yeah, I think helping me to just step into, I don't know, my knowing what I know, knowing what I do, and that I am really an expert at it. And maybe,
I mean, the before and after 2 years ago, you're like,
tell a few more people about it.
You're like, podcast what? And then what happened last weekend?
Well, we had a big booth at the Prego Expo, and I was a featured speaker, keynote speaker.
Keynote speaking, but you just got asked to speak at another big conference where you're also the keynote.
Yes.
Because you have incredible knowledge to share. And by the way, yes, this is true about Melissa, but so many of you listening, you have incredible knowledge to share, that there might be other people out there that do what you do, but they don't do it the way that you do it. They don't do it the heart that you do it, and with like the unique experience. And you are meant to share your gifts, your stories, like your knowledge. You're meant to share it. And I'm so proud of that you're doing it. And by the way, how fun is it now that you've given yourself permission?
Yes. I mean, honestly, I think what I get a lot of from, the pitch club community and stuff is just other, female entrepreneurs and women that I can just talk to about just being an entrepreneur and, the struggles of managing staff or getting your social media out or whatever it is that you need to do. It's just nice to have other support with that. And I think that's been, to me, the most wonderful part of it. It can be a kind of a lonely job at, running a business by yourself as a woman. And everybody just looks to you to be like the person who knows everything. And, oh, you're just going to handle that. And because normally I do. And normally as entrepreneurs, we do. But having other women who are also doing all of those same things together, it's just great to just have the camaraderie.
And even support you in different ways. Like you said, whether it's the accountability, whether it's like just the emotional and mental support, or it's the resource support of like, hey, I'm struggling with something and someone else knows how to do it or knows someone that can.
100%. Yes. I am not a techie person. Again, I don't really do, I'm not on social media a lot. Google Drive. I know all about Google Drive now.
You know all about Google Drive now?
Google Drive in the beginning was like, what the heck is a Google Drive? And where do I find it? And everything's going in different directions and it's not on my desktop. Where do I go? So yes, I've been well educated in that.
I love it. And so everyone should go to your website. You've got some goodies there that everyone can grab.
Yes, we have a really amazing tool for setting yourself up for a positive postpartum if you are pregnant. A postpartum planning tool that helps you, set up your support system so that you are as well prepared as possible. Most people spend a lot of time thinking about their, the birth itself, their baby registry, breastfeeding a little tiny bit. Nobody thinks about what they're going to do once the baby's out and they're home alone with the baby, and how to support themselves. Besides, the cute little Instagram or, whatever
basket, the onesie
cart that they have to have next to their chair. So thinking about real things that are going to help you feel supported, nourished, and good mental health moving into, the year after your baby comes. We also have 5 top tips for pregnancy nutrition on our website, free handouts. Please take advantage of those.
There's going to be one more thing up there. And I'm saying this now as we're, I don't know, a weekish out from this podcast launching, which I am going to get to Melissa, which I have a list of all of my goodies that Melissa will be putting on her website as well as soon as I get that Google Doc over. Melissa, anything else that you just want to share? Yes, get in. Anything else that you want to share for anyone listening out there?
I think, I think, so many of my women my clients come to me after just years and years and years of feeling bad, or they've gone to see a doctor and then another doctor and another doctor, and they're not really getting support because, they can't quite pinpoint exactly what it is. We'll test this. Well, that's not it. We'll test that. That's not it. It really comes down to how all of your body systems work together. And I'm going to look at you as a whole picture, your whole body, all the whole connections, not just one lab report. And we're going to work together to help you feel the best that you can feel. Because, once you've had those kids, you want to be able to enjoy them to the fullest extent that you can. And you want to have a beautiful, wonderful, long life with your partner, feeling vital and amazing to be the best that you can and be the best mother that you can.
Which, by the way, we didn't share how you got into midwifery and the fact that you are not only an incredible advocate for mother, you're an incredible mother. Like, you have 4 children and you have beautiful relationships. This should actually like go above Best Birth Center. 4 children that you have incredible relationships with and their spouses. Mm-hmm. You spend lots of time with your grandbabies and you guys all travel together.
I mean, I am an intentional mother. Relationships with my kids are really important. Relationship with my partner is really important because eventually all your kids grow up and they move away and they have lives of their own. I mean, that's the goal, right? You want your kids to go off and make them be amazing people, but I like them to come back and visit once in a while too. So I try to curate fun, my Enneagram 7, let's curate some fun together. But I also, I have 3 boys. Boys move away and marry some other wonderful person, and that becomes the center of their universe, which is what you want to have happen. But I also like them to want to spend time with their family. And in order to do that, I know that I need to have a good relationship with my daughter-in-laws. So to me, being intentional with my daughter-in-laws, I truly love each and every one of them. They're all amazing people and all have different gifts and different qualities, and learning to appreciate that, but also showing those things to all the other family members, letting them shine in their ways. So yeah, that's just important to me.
Thank you so much, Melissa. And again, everyone go out to Casa Natal. I'll drop it all in the show notes. so that you can reach out to Melissa and just take care of yourself, right? We're not meant to be anxious. We're not meant to have the sticky pounds. Like, it is not just the reality of life after having kids that you can't feel great, that you can't look great, and you can't be an advocate for your own health.
Absolutely, 100%. And I would absolutely love to get to know you and help you feel the best that you can.